Hey everyone, Derek Couture with Concept AgriTek. We're here in Elkton, South Dakota today at our field day, and Adam Alt from Forestburg, South Dakota has decided to bring his field to our field day. So Adam, tell us a little bit about what you did this morning before you got in the truck and drove a couple hours to Elkton.
Well, Ethan wanted some tissue samples to use their leaf scanner on and show the rest of the group, so instead of just leaf, we brought roots, dirt, and all.
Well, that's a unique way to enter a field day for sure. We brought it in on the forklift, and it's been a great talking point though all day.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
And Adam, where you're out in South Dakota, what's some of your biggest challenges you think with your soils right now?
We got high mag soils. Just trying to balance the soil out.
And talking about magnesium, you know, a lot of times we always say if you can't drain it, you can't move it, right?
Yep,
and you've got some of these potholes and things that just aren't feasible to drain, right?
We live in a prairie pothole region. Unfortunately, back in the 60s and 70s, a lot of our wet holes got tied up in the easements. So we cannot tile them wet holes. So we run into challenges year after year.
Gotcha. And so you've been working with Concept for probably 5 years or more now, right?
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of started out with maybe some starter fertilizers, in-furrow type stuff, you know, and we're still doing that. We can get into that in a few minutes, but I want to talk about what we've kind of moved into the last few years with your soil situation, with the salts and things, and specifically like humic acid, you know.
Just managing the salt loads with the fertilizer or the saline soils and the high salt content in our soil, we're able to get better water penetration and improve our lesser areas by, I feel, with the sugars and the humics.
Great. So, you know, we're talking about Carbon RX specifically, that you've been using a pretty substantial amount at times, you know. We started out maybe doing a quart or two here or there, and now we're up to what, a gallon and a half sometimes in some applications?
Gallon and a half to somewhere to 2.5, depends on the soil sample.
And the first thing some growers are going to say is, well, you know, he's spending a lot of money, you know, to do that. But let's talk about these areas. You know, you were talking last year when I was at your farm last fall that, you know, you've got these potholes out there that are very saline. You can see the salt on top of the ground at times.
Yep.
But here you are applying, you know, I think you broadcast in some cases a couple gallons of Carbon RX onto the soil surface. And you tell me, you know, you were seeing yields actually in these places that you hadn't really seen before.
Yeah, we're starting to grow. I mean, that's basic words. It's the soil's dead and just trying to ramp it up. Biology in the soil just isn't there. So with Humics and working with Derek and Ethan, we're able to get something growing in that soil. It may not be a win on year one, but hopefully in 3 to 5, we can keep stepping up, you know, raising the bar.
Yeah, at Concept AgriTek, we talk a lot about salts, you know. I mean, you've got salts naturally in your soils, but even all over the Midwest, we talk a lot about, you know, using UAN, you know, using things like ATS and things in the salt load that's in those, you know, and using humic acids to help buffer some of those salts. We were talking earlier about, you know, you took over some ground, you know, you've tried to increase your operation the last few years, and you're taking over some ground that had some single-digit phosphorus numbers, right?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about that kind of ground, what you've done to it.
Started out with a corn crop, no-tilled in the grass, and we do a 2x2 with our planter. So we're applying a lot of salt with the humics. We're able to contrast the salt load, and we're able to grow roots. We follow it with beans, and we had mid-40 average beans on 300 acres. That was not good grass the spring before.
Well, you know, you've made a statement to me before that, you know, some of these farms you've been on for 4 or 5 years and really haven't even applied any dry fertilizer. Lo and behold, 4 or 5 years later, the soil sample's better than it was when you started.
Yes, we're improving the P&K levels in it.
Correct.
Without building like a traditional program would.
And you're in a part of the world where a lot of your CECs are, we saw one earlier today, I think some of this soil actually that you brought to the field day is almost 30.
Yeah.
You know, now this doesn't hold true for guys in the sands, but you know, when you got a CEC above 15, there's thousands of pounds of P&K in that soil.
There is.
We just got to figure out ways to get it to release.
How can we get it going?
Correct. So obviously humic acid, we've talked about it to buffer salts. You know, Carbon RX is kind of the flagship for Concept AgriTek. It's got humic acid with some amino acids in it as well to help with that nitrogen conversion, nitrogen efficiency. We also have products, fulvic acid
Yep.
as well. You know, fulvic is a great option in high mag soils.
It's a great driver to get your nutrients in the plant.
Great, that's exact words that I was going to use too, Adam. Like, where are you using Sweet Fulvic, for instance, or fulvic acid on your farm right now?
We start out in furrow, and every pass we go across the crop, we're putting it on. Over the top, we'll even in our 2x2, we're looking at doing some of that for next year.
Great, great. So, you know, we talked a lot today at the field day about pH.
Yes.
You know, not only soil pH, but like water pH and pH of the plant. You know, as our head of agronomy, Bert Riggin, was saying today, that, you know, that corn plant is kind of like a grounding rod.
Yep.
You know, and everything below ground is negatively charged, and we're adding cations to the soil, you know, to try to get those taken up. When we spray things foliar, you know, we've got a positive charge above the soil, so we kind of need to have that pH, you know, more acidic
Yep.
to get better uptake of whatever we're applying. And, you know, we talked about herbicides a little bit being more effective at lower pHs, but specifically like Sweet Fulvic, it has a pH of around 4.
Yep.
You know, so that's a great tool to help buffer your water a little bit and get better uptake. So, Adam, well, we really appreciate you coming to the event today, and look forward to continue to working with you. And
It's been a pleasure.
You bet. Thank you.